Hello everyone and welcome to our UCAS Application Clinic live lounge. Today we're going to be giving you lots of tips on applying through UCAS. My name's Ellie and I'm part of the international office here at the University of Lincoln, and my role is to help support international students on their journey to Lincoln. And I'm joined today by my colleague Nick.
Hello Ellie, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Good, yeah, very well, thank you. So my role is in the schools and colleges team here at the University of Lincoln, and I basically travel up and down the country speaking to our UK home students about their applications and anything to do with university.
Brilliant. So we're hopefully going to be answering all of your questions today. So you can pop them in the comments on YouTube or on Instagram and we'll get through as many as possible. But to start us off, Nick, what's the most important thing that goes into a UCAS application?
Yeah, so there are kind of a few main elements, really. The first bit you'll fill in is your personal details. So these are just some basic information about yourself. So, your name, email address, and things like that. And then we get into the nitty gritty stuff, the important stuff. So I would say your next most important thing is your 5 choices of university course. So we can choose up to 5 different universities and courses. They can be from the same uni, different universities, and they can be totally different courses. But our recommendation, we'll get into that in a little bit of time, is to choose courses that are similar. And then we have a very important part, which is our personal statement as well. So that is also a vital part of our application. This goes to all of your applications, all of your universities, and they receive just one statement for all of your 5 courses. So I would say the most important to get right is your choices of university and course.
Absolutely. And for international students, we know that it might be a little bit different applying to study in the UK than it is in your home country. So you do have 5 choices there and you can choose different institutions and different courses. But there is lots of guidance on our website, and you can also contact our international inquiries team if you need any support with that. So next, Nick, how can I tailor my personal statement to multiple courses?
Yeah, so this is a question that we often get asked as our schools and colleges team are out on the road. Students, maybe you're in the sort of predicament that you're not really sure exactly what you want to study, so you've got a few different options you want to go down. What we want to try and avoid is having courses that are really different to each other. So if you're going to apply for astrophysics and drama and theatre courses, you may not be able to tailor your personal statement best to both of those to keep both of those courses happy. However, our recommendation is to choose those courses based on your interest, but they're in the similar kind of area. So courses that overlap really well are things like English and law, for example. English will also go with a lot of other courses, creative writing, drama. There's a lot of other courses like that. So how do we keep our sort of personal statement happy? We basically need to give a good overview and understanding of the subject area. And then we also need to show our passion for that subject as well. They're the 2 main things I would say, really.
And if you're not sure what you want to study, especially if you're an international student, there's loads of information on our website about the types of courses that we offer and really detailed information about the entry criteria. So it's really important to check that, and also our country web pages, because that will tell you all about the equivalent qualifications to those that you study in your home country. So plenty of information and support on applying through UCAS and about writing the personal statement on our web pages.
Absolutely.
So we've had a question from a student. I'm struggling to structure my personal statement. Are there any tools to help with this?
Yeah, absolutely. So my first port of call would be the UCAS website. That is a really helpful website. So that will have different questions for you to answer on there that then will transfer into your actual statement. So maybe start there. But then also our University of Lincoln website has some really amazing resources on there for you. So if you're struggling to structure it, then there will be some help on there. From the top of my head, and just sort of reiterating what we said in our live lounge before Christmas about personal statements, there are kind of 5 sections that we'd look for. An introduction that will tell you a basic reason why you want to study. Then we'd look at your academic knowledge, so talking about what you studied at sixth form college or anything in school. Then we'd think about work experience, any extra knowledge that you've got outside of school studies, and then just a short conclusion summarizing everything you've told us. So yeah, that's kind of a little bit of a whistle-stop tour on structure for personal statements.
Absolutely. And if you're an international student, you can talk about why you want to study in the UK, what has brought you to that decision, to explore that, and include any relevant experience that you have, any skills that you think will be able to apply to your course when you're here. And as I said, there's loads of information on the web pages as well to help support with this.
I think particularly as well, just to add on to that, for an international student, if you have another language that you speak, that's a really important skill. And, you know, not a lot of people have that. So definitely mention that if you can, and just tell us why that's going to be useful for you in your studies.
Absolutely. And as you know, if you're applying to the university as an international student, you will need to meet our English language requirements. So you already speak 2 languages there, which is a fantastic thing to mention, as Nick said, in your personal statement, and explain what's driven you to come and explore studying in the UK, and how excited you are to join us, hopefully.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So we've had another question. Who can I get to read my personal statement?
So we would often point students in the direction of their sort of school and colleges first. They're normally great people to look after your statement and just have a read through. But I would also recommend sending it to someone at a university. We have a team, the education liaison team that I work in. We would more than happy. We're more than happy to look over any personal statements. Likewise with international students, for you and your team, Ellie. I'm absolutely certain that if you were to send an email with your statement attached, then the team here would look through it and give you some feedback. I do this quite often with schools and colleges. I went into a college recently, and we're looking through lots of statements and sort of giving feedback on it. And you know, that's just to really build on what you've already started. So definitely try and send it to someone at your universities that you're going to apply for, but also get your teachers, careers advisors, heads of sixth form, heads of your college department to look over it as well. But then also make use of family members, I would say as well. Chuck a paragraph to your mum, dad, your brother, sister. Maybe they've gone through the process. That's often quite helpful as well. My older brother was quite helpful. He went to university just before me, 2 years before me, and just helped me with my statement as well, which is also very useful. So make the most of as many people as you possibly can to get eyes on it. That's what we'd say.
Absolutely. And as Nick mentioned, for international students, you'll have your school counsellors in the same way that home students do. So many of you will have school counsellors that are supporting you on this journey and helping you to explore the prospect of studying in the UK. So that's a great place to start. We also have an international inquiries team and colleagues here at the university that can help. So I would definitely recommend, like Nick said, getting as many eyes on that statement as possible, just so that you really understand that you're putting your best foot forward there.
We'll put the contact details for those email addresses at the end for you guys to get in touch.
So there's a question here from an international student. What would you say is the most important thing to look for? And I think, as I mentioned previously, it might be a little bit different applying to an institution in the UK as opposed to in your home country. So some of the things that may be different is that in the UK, when you apply through UCAS, you submit one application and that goes to all of your choices. So as Nick mentioned, if you're applying to multiple courses, you need to make sure that it's relevant. I know in a lot of other countries, you might have to submit separate applications to each institution. But one of the main pros of this is that you only pay one application fee through UCAS. So that's definitely something to be aware of, making sure that the application applies to all of the institutions and courses that you are going for. Also to check entry requirements on our country web pages and on our course web pages, and making sure that they translate, because we do list the equivalencies in your own country on our country web pages. So just double check that and make sure on your UCAS application you're including as much information as possible about those qualifications, even previous qualifications that you may have taken. A lot of our courses have GCSE results that they require as well. So it's important to make sure that you're providing all of that if you can. So the next question that we come through is, where do I include my English language test results? Now, once you've submitted your UCAS application, our team here at the university will then assess whether you meet the entry requirements. And if you do meet requirements, you will be issued with a conditional offer, which is really exciting. And you'll be informed by email, and your UCAS hub will also update. Now, if this is the case, you will then receive an email asking you to upload your English language test results and any other evidence of necessary qualifications. So that might be academic qualifications as well. So it's really important that you do that as quickly as possible. And then once you've been issued an unconditional offer and firm accepted, you will then receive another email which allows you to start the process of applying for your student visa, so completing your CAS request form and things like that. But as I said earlier, there's so much guidance on our webpage. If you can't remember all of that, don't worry, you can revisit it later.
Absolutely.
Okay. The next question is there anywhere to upload documents as part of my UCAS application, Nick?
So I think this is probably talking about portfolio requirements and things like that. So for us, we don't allow you to upload anything on UCAS if you have a portfolio requirement for your course. And normally these are to do with more creative courses, but we would invite you, once we've given you an offer, then we would give you all of the details about what you need to bring for your portfolio and how to and work that. Some of those might be physical in person, and others might be via a sort of web page, and you kind of upload your files onto there. If I remember back to my application days for University of Lincoln, I studied creative advertising here and had a portfolio to bring, so I had to bring a physical portfolio with me on my interview date, which is another thing to maybe mention as well. But that was all sort of part of the process after I'd applied. Then they got in touch with me and said, right, you need these requirements for your portfolio, and here's when you're going to bring it to us. So it will all be made clear once you've applied.
Absolutely. And if you're an international student and you're wondering what a portfolio is, we will mention on the course webpage if a portfolio is required. And if you're unsure, you can always get in touch with us. If the programme does require an interview, then again, we will be in touch with you to organise that and let you know what you need to do to prepare. So please don't worry about that. We will be there to support you every step of the way. And again, you can always contact International Inquiries if you have any questions there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So key UCAS dates and deadlines, Nick. How strict is the UCAS deadline?
Yeah, so the UCAS deadline, is the 29th of January, and we say that that's the deadline, but that doesn't mean that it's a complete cutoff. This is called the equal consideration deadline, basically where if you've applied before the deadline, the universities you've applied for have to consider your application as much as anyone else who's applied before that as well. Then after that, there's kind of, a little bit of a delay maybe. So maybe just make sure you hit that deadline just so that your application is considered in the same sort of boat as everybody else's. We then have other deadlines to do with student finance, making your firm and insurance choices, which come later on in the year, sort of May time. Student finance is maybe we open up in March time. So there's lots of different things going on, and there's a timeline available, and UCAS have really good information on their website for that as well. So if you are stuck for dates and want to get those dates in your diary, then we would definitely recommend to do that. So go onto the UCAS website, you'll be able to find all of those different dates and bits of information available. And I'll also just mention an event that we're running at the University of Lincoln for applicants and parents and guardians. So if you're able to get to us on the 5th of February, we're running a sort of next steps after you've applied information evening for parents and guardians, which will be really, really great to go through those next steps. We'll give you all of the details about dates, times, all of the information that you need in terms of finance, accommodation, and then your applications, your firm and insurance choices as well. So that would also be something we would recommend.
Yeah, and I think this is a good time to mention that the equal consideration deadline is Wednesday, 29th of January at 6 p.m. So as we mentioned, if you are considering applying for undergraduate study, we would really encourage you to get your application in by that deadline, because as Nick said, you'll be considered equally. But if you don't make it, then it's not the end of the world. You will be able to apply at a later date. So I think now might be a good opportunity. Nick, you briefly touched on what happens next after the equal consideration deadline. So if I'm a student that has applied and has submitted an application to the University of Lincoln through UCAS, what can I expect after the deadline, and when will I hear back regarding a decision?
Yeah, so we tend to get back to you as soon as we can, really, with an offer. So there's a couple of different offers that we would normally give out, and you've mentioned the conditional offer already. So once you've heard that back, we will then move on to choosing firm and insurance choices. So that normally is by the sort of middle of May. We need you to make your firm and insurance choices, and they are, if you don't know what they are basically, you pick your top two choices. So your firm choice is that if everything goes well on results day, and you're holding an offer with us, then that place is going to be yours. And your insurance is a good backup just in case you don't hit that firm choice. So they're the kind of two things we'd look for, really. But yeah, middle of May is when we'd kind of need to make those firm and insurance choices. And hopefully by then you'd already received all 5 of your offers. So once you've got it back, you then have a couple of days to make that decision, and then go from there, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And as Nick mentioned, A-level results day in the UK is in August. Yes. But if you are an international student, your results day might be earlier than that. It might be on a different date. So just remember that once you get the link from us to upload evidence that you've met our conditions, you can upload those anytime. So if your results day passes before our A-level results day, that's absolutely fantastic. You can upload your evidence beforehand and start preparations in terms of your visa, arranging accommodation, and the other things that you need to think about before joining the university. But if your results day is a little bit later, then you can still get started with those steps, and you can still make plans to join us here. And just await those results and keep your fingers crossed. But we look forward to having you with us, hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely, we do.
So we have a question from Instagram. At what point should I be applying for a programme starting in September? So I'm going to assume that this is for undergraduate study.
Yeah, so if you're hoping to start with us in September 2025, then we've already kind of mentioned that equal consideration deadline. That is there at the 29th of January. So that normally is year on year. The deadline will be somewhere in January. So I think the year after they maybe move that forward a few weeks in 2026. But for a September start, you need to apply by that sort of end January deadline. Now, that is the case for those equal considerations. We will accept later applications, so there will still be time to apply. So if you miss it and you're sort of a little bit behind, you've got lots of other things on, then there will still be time. However, our really strong recommendation is that you get everything done by that 29th of January, so that you can have a good running start into September.
Absolutely. There's lots to think about ahead of September, which is why submitting your application early so that you can start making those plans is really essential, especially for international students. So if you do require a visa to study in the UK, that's something to start thinking about. Again, there is lots of guidance on our website about the steps that you need to go through if you do require a visa to study. But starting that process sooner rather than later can be really beneficial, and arranging your accommodation so that when you arrive in the UK, you've got somewhere to go to, somewhere to start university and not have to worry, and be here for Welcome Week, which is a really exciting time for students to get engaged with lots of activities.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that those first few weeks of university are so key, aren't they? And one of the key things as well is your student finance application. That is a really strict deadline on that. That isn't one of those that you really want to miss, because what happens is then your first payment of student finance is then delayed. And so I remember a student who I lived with in my first year missed his finance deadline, and he had a rough couple of weeks to start university in comparison to the rest of us who had received our sort of first tuition fee sort of as a maintenance loan payment. So make sure for your student finance application, when those dates are released, then you get on it and you'll make sure you hit that deadline.
Absolutely. And if you are an international student, you do need to think a little bit in advance about planning your budget. So you're going to have lots of things to think about. So you're going to have tuition fees, costs associated with your accommodation, with living and studying in Lincoln, your social life. So again, there's plenty of information on our website, but you can't start thinking about this soon enough, really. So especially if you're considering studying in the UK, really start to think about how you're going to fund all this. And as part of your visa application, you may also be required to prove that you have enough maintenance, is what the Home Office refers to it as. So again, check out our CAS student visa webpage, but really start thinking about how you're going to fund your studies and make sure that you've got it all planned out in advance for a seamless integration into student life at Lincoln.
Absolutely. Yeah, budgeting is a huge part, isn't it? Huge part for any student. And I think, there is another helpful tool on the government website, which is the Student Finance Calculator, which will give you information about what money you can expect to receive based on, how household income and that kind of thing. So please do use that before you come so that you can maybe get ahead of yourself and start giving yourself a weekly budget so you don't run out.
That's great advice. And we have a couple more questions that have come in from students. What is UCAS Extra?
Yeah, so UCAS Extra, basically this is another tool that we can use on the UCAS website. So if you're not currently holding any offers from your 5, then UCAS Extra basically gives you the option to add another choice to it. So if you have no offers currently from the 5 that you've already chosen, then UCAS Extra is sort of another short application completely for free that you can use just to give yourself one extra choice, maybe to give you a better chance of then coming to university.
Absolutely. And there's also something called UCAS Clearing, which happens later in the year, doesn't it?
Yes. So clearing is then the kind of spaces that are available on courses around the country. And we have a lot of students who apply to us through clearing. This is normally in and around results day. So, some students will wait till results day, but it will open from sort of July time. So you can self-refer into clearing as well if you'd like to. Maybe all of your choices have said no, or you feel like you want to then go and choose another university. It's not just for students who have missed the mark on results day. It's for also those students who maybe have gone above and beyond what they expected to get, or if you want to have another choice of university that you didn't choose in your original 5. So there's lots of leeway in terms of clearing options, and normally a lot of universities will slightly reduce their tariff, but that's not something to sort of cross your fingers and just hope for. Get your application in, make sure you've got good applications that are going to match up with your predicted grades to give you a great chance. And then if you need to go through clearing, that's also a great option to come to university.
Absolutely. And clearing is also open to international students. So if you're still unsure at this point what you're going to be doing in September, whether you do want to study in the UK, it just gives you a little bit of extra time there to consider your options. Yes. And then we will be publishing more information on the courses available nearer the time. So keep checking back on our website. As Nick said, it can be a variety of courses that still have places available. So have a little look closer to the time and keep that in mind.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. I've got another question here from YouTube. Should I still apply if I'm thinking of doing a gap year?
Great question. Absolutely is the answer. 100%. There is the option on UCAS to defer your application, which is the normal route that we would sort of invite people to go down. And that means that, at the time of your studies, you can put all of the same information in, get your application wrapped up, your personal statement done and dusted. And then whatever you go and do on your gap year, whether you stay at home and save some money up while you're working, or you just take some time out, you might go traveling, whatever you might end up doing, then you don't have to worry about all of that sort of admin before you come to university. That would already be wrapped up and done. What you can do is on your UCAS application, apply through the normal route like everybody else, and then you can just select that you want to defer entry to 2026, for example, instead of 2025, and then there will hopefully be then a place for you the year afterwards. So it is relatively simple.
And we are getting a lot of questions through about very specific courses. So if you do have a question about a specific program, we would really recommend looking at that course webpage. There will be a how to apply section and it will have information all about those entry requirements. So that is what we'd recommend. If you know exactly what you want to study, head to that course webpage and then start your UCAS application if you haven't already. But we've got a few minutes left, so do keep those questions coming in and we'll try and get through a few more. So student has asked, my qualifications aren't listed. What should I do?
Yeah, great question. So each of our course pages on the university website has a list of qualifications that we would accept. I would say go on to UCAS, your UCAS portal. There's the option to then add additional qualifications that maybe aren't the traditional ones. Yeah, please go on there and have a look on there. But then also get in touch with your university as well. Each university will have an inquiries line. So, for us, our inquiries line is sort of the place to go to, really, and especially international inquiries as well, for qualifications that may be not recognised. Definitely get in touch with us. Pick up the phone, drop us an email, and the teams here will really, really love to hear from you, so that we can try to get you a place. But if your qualifications aren't listed, look on UCAS first, and then also just pick up the phone and try and speak to us if you can.
Absolutely, that's a great tip, and I think it's a running theme throughout every question that we've answered, that we are here to help. So do make the most of that support. And if you have any question, whether it be something really small or something a little bit bigger, we will do our best to support. So just make sure that you are utilising that. So we've got time for a couple more questions. Do I need to list my university courses in order of preference?
So initially, no, you don't need to list them in order of preference. You just pick 5, and then later on, you kind of go through that filtering process, like we've mentioned earlier, the firm and insurance choices. But it's not really a 1 to 5 ranking. It's just in any order, and then afterwards we just pick our top 2. So we don't need to have a kind of ranking system initially, but then the top 2 are then really important. So you do need to kind of have a bit of an order in your head, but on UCAS, it doesn't kind of work like that.
Yeah, I think that's a great tip. And if you're not sure, I think that still gives you a little bit of time to then do that additional research about the university. So there are so many great things about living and studying in Lincoln that you can explore. We do have an open event this weekend if you want to come and visit us and find out a little bit more. So we have a question about English language test results, and a student has asked, is it compulsory to have an English proficiency examination like IELTS before I apply? Now, we don't just accept IELTS, we accept a variety of English language qualifications and equivalencies. All of our courses do have an IELTS score that you do need to meet to study that programme. So it's worth exploring the different courses because they do vary depending on the subject. And it is really important that you can meet that English language requirement, because when you're studying in the UK, you are going to be expected to study in English. So that is really key. We do have pre-sessional English programs. So depending on what your IELTS score is, we may be able to accept you for a pre-sessional or PEAS course ahead of your program of study, which just helps you to bring you up to that English level that is expected. But you can find out lots about that on our website, on our international web pages.
100%.
So I think we've got time for one more question. So Nick, what would be your 3 top tips for a student? If you were to recap everything that we've covered during this session, because I think there's been some great takeaways, what would your 3 top tips be?
I think number 1 would be to, if you can, then visit the universities that you're interested in. That is the best thing you can do. From my own experience, I visited all 5 of my UCAS choices. My dad was absolutely amazing and sort of dragged me around the country, which was superb. But yeah, that was the thing that changed my mind and made me sort of pick Lincoln over the other 4 choices that I met. So being on campus and getting to know what that's like, and that experience and sort of picturing yourself there is probably the most important thing. Your personal statement, get that going as soon as you can. So my top tip for that one would be to, start now. If you haven't started it already, there is still time. But get as many people to read through that as possible. But then I guess one to do with your choices is, think about the university as a whole package. Think about your course, how that's delivered, the length of it, but then also the city or town you're going to be living in as well. Do you know much about it? Is that town going to be right for you? For me, Lincoln was a really great city to be in because it was busy enough, but it was also relatively quiet at times as well. So it's got a real good balance to it. I remember visiting another town in the country that was particularly quiet. really sort of rural town, and I just felt like it was going to be too quiet. And then I visited another university in a massive city and felt like that was going to be too much. So Lincoln was genuinely, for me, a real good balance of both. So think about the town or city that you're going to be living in as well, because you're going to be there for three years plus, and it's important.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And if you're an international student and you can't visit the university, please follow us on social media, on our Instagram account, have a look at our international web pages. And lots of our international student ambassadors have made videos to support you and help you to find out a little bit more about what the city is like and what studying here is like. So I think that's all we've got time for, but I'd just like to remind you that the UCAS Equal Consideration deadline is the 29th of January at 6 p.m. We do have an open campus event this weekend. If you'd like to come and visit us, as Nick mentioned, we'd love to see you in person and help to explain more about what it's like to live and study at the university. And there's more information about that on our website. Our next live lounge on what to expect from your offer is at the end of January. And thank you so much for joining us. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to our international inquiries and our inquiries team. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, guys.